Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Geneva Craig. I obtained my first nursing degree, way back in the 70s, because I'm not going to tell you my age. I had promised my mother that I would be continually learning. Now, that's about my educational journey, part of it, because we haven't talked about before, those years before, the struggles that I had to go through in order to finish a high school diploma. I go back to when I was a very young child and how happy I was living in Selma, Alabama. I had all this love wrapped around me. My mother, my daddy, my big mama, my sister, cousins, then my brother. Just happiness, feeling loved, feeling secure, feeling safe. That's as a young child. I wasn't a teenager when Emmett Till was killed. And I remember looking at the pictures in Jet magazine of this child's body, how he had been tortured and killed. And I looked at the age. He was only 14. And I tried to wrap my mind around it. I had seen all the colored white signs that were posted all over Selma. My mother had forbade us to ride the bus. So that's part of the recognition and that awareness as you grow older of the differences that had been outlined. I had the love in the community, a family and friends who supported me, who told me I was intelligent, I was smart, and I could grow up and do wonderful things. And then I had the outside world placing limitations. Awareness. I know about Emmett Till. I'm learning about some of my family history because I'm sort of inquisitive. And I learned that I had relatives who had disappeared. And I'm going, disappeared? What do you mean disappeared? My cousin Leela used to always be looking at certain people. And I go, what are you looking for, Leela? And she says, I just hope one day I'll see my brother. I saw a man that looked just like my brother. I said, well, where is he? Where did she goes, we don't know. He disappeared. And that's when I started finding about what was called the coon hunts. And I kept asking questions till I got a good understanding. They take black people, put them in a shed, train their dogs on their scent, and then will turn them loose at some point and go hunting for them. Oh my goodness. Learning all of these things as a young child and then moving into being a teenager. Oh, I was PO'd by the time I was a teenager. Okay? Very angry. Very angry and generalizing. That's what I caution people against today. Don't generalize. It can get you in a lot of trouble. But I generalized against whites. Couldn't stand them. Mean people. Look at the signs. What are they telling me? I am not worthy. I know differently. Angry. And my friends who were angry also, we were like, what can we do? Because, of course, the old people are not doing nothing we see. We heard about Dr. King, but that was a long way away. What's happening in Selma, Alabama to make change? We were trying to figure out a way to get some attention, to demand our rights. But by the time we had come up with a plan of doing our own march, Dr. King's disciples had descended upon Selma, Alabama, and Dr. King himself came multiple times. And we learned that the best way to go about this is in the peaceful way. Now, nonviolence. I did a lot of reading of what Dr. King had written, but I didn't have to read in the beginning. He gave the message, the lessons to be taught to us, to the people we called his disciples. He had made sure that they knew his teachings, the teachings that he wrote in this book. Why we can't wait. That we need, yes, to express ourselves, our discontentment, the injustice that we feel. But we need to do it in a controlled manner that served a purpose. And that was the nonviolent way. He expressed in his writings that if a group of suppressed people are not allowed to vent their frustration, it would lead to violence. He was so right on that. Because we were ready to go marching downtown Selma. We demanded our rights, demanded to be treated like real human beings. We wanted justice. Had we done that before Dr. King's intervention, we would have been slaughtered. They were used to killing blacks and never suffering the consequences. And our demands, our march, would have had that tone of anger and a tendency for violence, and we would have given justification to those who would have destroyed us. People couldn't just say, I'm gonna march on the bridge crossing. You had to be selected. There was a test, more than one. The main test was the pushing, the shoving, and hitting to make sure that you would not show a potential for violence, because that would have been our weakness. So my brother was with me a couple of years longer. He was 13. And my brother said, Geneva, I want to march. And I went, oh, I don't know about that. In the back of my head, I'm going, Mama would kill me. I died from my mother's hands. I go, Vernon, I don't think so. He goes, no, I really want to do this. And I go, well, if you pass the test, I'll take you with me. And I'm going, he'll never pass the test. They pushed that boy, they hit that boy, they did everything they could. They pushed him down, he just lay there. He showed no emotions. They said, you can march. We're lining up. Word comes about the big line of sheriffs, deputies. Then they said, no, we're going to go. So we're walking slowly. We're singing. We're doing all the things to boost our courage. By the time my brother and I cleared the foot of the bridge going to Montgomery, they came at us. Tear gas, whips, billy club. people on horseback. They plowed into us like you wouldn't believe. And that movie captured it so perfectly that the only thing they missed were the faces of the attackers. The faces of the attackers were hatred. You could see it. They hated us. And they were going to beat us into submission or kill us. That was my interpretation. And the fear that choked my voice as I grabbed my brother and we ran to the edge of the riverbank. And I told my brother, I said, Vernon, I want you to take some deep breaths because I've got to get you back to the church. Take some deep breaths. And when we get up and we start to run, I want you to run like you've never ran before. I want you to move. And if you see one of the men on the horseback coming at us, because they had the whips, and they were just popping. I said, give me a signal of some sort. If there's someone with a billy club, let me take the blow. I have got to keep you safe. Yeah, blood was everywhere. People were screaming. Bodies were laying all over the place. The men on the horses was just whipping with snapping those whips, just snapping. And the frenzy of the police, the hatred, it was hatred. To fight back does not mean you have to go to physical blows or take a physical action in the sense of harming someone else to protect your body. We were given a strong message to America and to the world. And believe me, that the videos that were able to get out, and the reason I say we're able to, because the posse attacked the white newspaper men, and they were taking their cameras and the footages and things, their pictures, smashing them. They did not want that to get out, but the footage got out. It got out. What did that do for the civil rights movement? It let people know that the blacks in Selma, in Alabama, were tired. They were fed up. They needed to make a statement to the people in Selma and around the world. No more. No more. It is time for a change, and the time to start is now. There's so many things that a person or groups of people can do other than getting guns. So no, that is not the way. The way is, as Dr. King outlined, you make a plan and you make sure that you get a good education so that you can use what has been created by this world to make changes. But in America, we have the power of the vote. And all the things that you have seen over these past few election years have substantiated this very point, the power of the vote. I remember learning about all of these things about economics when Dr. King's apostles, his soldiers, would sit down with us. When I learned my parents and relatives were paying taxes, and the taxes supported the parks that we weren't allowed to go to, The taxes supported the salary of the policeman that we feared. Access to better jobs, making money where you could live decently. The vote is power. And through that, screening, getting the politician to stand on their word, the promises they've made for your vote, and holding them accountable. And to vote with education. Not just get out there and check a box. Know what you're voting for. The blacks in the South, they did not have the power to vote. There were all kinds of tactics employed to limit them. The tactics that have been in place over the years, from the time before I was born all the way up to now, should be enough to tell you the importance of voting, and voting with some education. Know what you're voting for and what it entails, and holding the politicians accountable for the promises they've made. And if they don't, get them out of office and put somebody else in. Every human being is deserving to be treated as a human being. I want the younger kids to look at bullying. Most of them know about bullies. I've had some tell me, my bigger brother is a bully. And I go, oh, well, what does that mean? That means he wants me to do what he wants me to do, not what I want to do. So the message there, I say to them, is, well, now you know how to treat others. You treat them with respect. And love comes in many different shapes and forms, and it doesn't mean the same thing in every setting. But if you have love for your fellow human beings, that will help guide you in how you treat them. You would treat them with care. You would treat them with respect. And oftentimes you have to learn what they consider is respect. Learn to recognize the truth of the situation. If something is not right, don't be afraid to speak up and say, that's not right. I don't believe this to be true. He'd probably say, so you chose to come to Southern Oregon after reading all the history in Southern Oregon. And I would say, yes, Dr. King, I chose to come to Southern Oregon. I have a promise that I made to a friend that I would come to Oregon, and I'm here. That promise was that I was going to come to Oregon and try it out, but I never felt that I had to stay. I said, but Southern Oregon is in its growth period. It is in its period of change. And Dr. King, they need me here. And Dr. King would say, yeah, Craig, they certainly do need you there. And I can see the progress that's being made in Southern Oregon. Would I do it again? Yeah. Would I be fearful? Yeah. But it's not about me now, because at my age, I've got more friends that have died these past 3 years. And I look and I go, okay, so if I die, I die. I've had a wonderful life. Struggles? Yeah, a lot of struggles. Some would say more than my share. But I don't focus on that. I focus on the joy of my life and what I can do to help others. Dr. King, like he said, We've waited 300 years since we've been freed. And look at us now. We have to beg for jobs. We have to live in shanties. We don't have enough good food to eat. And when we get old, there's nobody to take care of us. There's no retirement for us. If the family and friends won't do for us, we just die and pass on. Come on. The time was right then, and the time is right now. We're just dealing with different players. Now, why am I going to such detail about this? It's because you need to know some of the other inspirations that came into my life that spurred me on to make me determined, to make me believe in Geneva. It's so important to believe in yourself. And it's so important to know where you want to go, what you want to do, and who you want